Right, in today's math lesson, we're going to be looking at still working with negative numbers. We've done positive and negative whole numbers, positive and negative fractions, and the last bit of work we're going to do with negatives specifically is going to be with decimals. So we're going to go through each of the operations just as we did with the other types of numbers. And we'll start today with just adding, and then we'll move from there. So today, adding decimals and a couple key ideas or helpful hints, whatever you want to call them. For this, one is just follow your rules for adding negative numbers, right? It doesn't matter if it's a negative whole number or a fraction or a decimal. The rules for addition will always hold true no matter the type of number. So the rules, in case you forgot them, if the signs are the same, and when I say that, I mean if you have a positive plus a positive, or if you have a negative plus a negative. If the signs, so negative and a negative, positive and a positive, they're the same, just add the values and keep that sign in your final answer. 4 plus 7 is 11, and keep it positive because both of those were positive. 3 plus 8 is 11, and since they were both negative, so should be your final answer. That's rule one. And the other rule is if the signs are different. If you've got different signs, so for example, a positive plus a negative, then you need to find the difference of the two numbers, aka you need to subtract them. So in this case, 7 minus 4 is 3. And then in determining if it's a positive or negative final answer, you keep the sign of whichever number has a larger absolute value. In this little mini example, 7 is bigger and it's positive, so that means my final answer should be positive. If this was negative and this was positive, then since the 7's bigger and it's negative, then your answer would be negative. All right, so let's just do 3 examples, and that's it for this mini lesson. The first one, I've got negative 75 hundredths plus negative 1 1/2. Since they're both negative, just forget that. We already know our final answer is going to be negative. All I then need to do is add my decimals. So a quick reminder on adding decimals, you need to make sure that your place values are lined up. So this 5 is in the tenths place, and this 7 is in the tenths place, so those need to be lined up. Some people will say line up your decimals. I like to say line up your place values because then tenths lined up with tenths. This 5 is in the hundredths, so I need a placeholder 0 here so that I've got those lined up. All right, and now I just need to add. And your decimal should just come right down. You should just drop it right down. And that's my final answer. Negative 2 and 25 hundredths. 2.25. Okay, the other example I've got is where the signs are different. So I've got a positive and I've got a negative decimal. And when the signs are different, I need to subtract. Find the difference between the two. And then whichever number is bigger, that's what my answer is going to be. In this case, I can already determine, since this is the bigger of the two and it's positive, my final answer is going to be positive. And to get the real answer, I need to find the difference between the two. When you subtract decimals, you need to also make sure that your place values are lined up. So the 6 right here is in the tenths place, and I'm going to line this up with the tenths place and subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. All right, so there's my final answer. 0.75, that'd be 75 hundredths. And again, it's positive because 1.65 is bigger and it's positive, so my final answer is positive. Last one I have for you is a word problem, because what would this be without a word problem? The table below shows the annual profits, aka how much money a company has made in millions of dollars. This is for an online gaming company. And it takes place over a course of 5 years from 2013 all the way to 2017. Anytime in this chart you see a positive number, like, let's see, right here, That is a gain. A gain means they made money. So in 2015, they made $1.7 million. On the other hand, any negative values, like right here, are going to represent losses. So the company did not generate as much money as it spent. You spend money on tons of stuff, like your employees' salaries, or on the building that you rent to have office space. For this company, it's an online gaming company, so they need lots of computers and different software and hardware. So they spend money on that, but they didn't make enough money to cover the money that they gave out. So they actually ended the year losing money. Anyways, the ultimate question is, what's the profit in total over these 5 years? So that tells me I'm going to have to add. This is an addition problem. I need to find the total sum of all of these 5 years to find what they made over the course of that 5-year period. Just as an aside, this is something that happens all the time. You might, I don't know how much you read the news, but you might have read about a company being bought by another company. And if you're going to buy another company, you're paying attention to how much money they've made over the course of some amount of time. So this is done all the time. Anyways, to find the total sum, I'm just going to add everything up. I think it would be smart to, instead of just adding 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and adding them right in order, anytime you add, so let's add 1 plus 3 plus 2, you can change the order. You could do 3 plus 1 plus 2 if you wanted, and it wouldn't change the final answer. So when you add numbers, you can add them in any order that you want, and you'll still get the same final answer. So instead of just adding everything straight down the line, I think we should first do 1.7 plus negative 1.7, because together that equals 0. So then we've got 2 of the 5 numbers already out of the way, and we don't need to actually do anything with them. So those are actually a wash. Those cancel each other out. So now it's just negative 4 and 75 hundredths plus 8 tenths plus 3 and 2 tenths. And I would actually add the 2 positives first and then add it to the negative. Hopefully you'll see why in a second. When you add these 2 things together, and I can show you on the side, you're going to get a total of 4. So now I've got negative 4.75 plus 4. And now I've got a positive plus a negative, so I have to find the difference between the two, which I'll do over here. Notice how I'm lining up the place values. Both of those 4s are in the 1s place, so I'm lining them up. I added placeholder zeros here, and when I subtract, I get 0.75. And so that's my final answer. Final answer is 0.75. But since this is bigger than the 4 and it's negative, my final answer is going to be negative. So what does that tell me? That tells me that over the course of the 5 years for this online gaming company, they actually did not make a profit. They actually had a loss of $0.75 million, so $750,000 loss. It does look like they're trending in the right direction, so if we were to find out what they made in 2018 and in 2019, then they'd probably be in the positive by then. But over these 5 years, didn't do totally well, but definitely going in the right direction. Anyways, that's your work for today. If you have questions, reach out. Otherwise, good luck. Happy Monday. Have fun. Bye.